at the most prestigious modern art gala in America. Genevieve's pride and joy, her solo exhibition, was cleared out in an instant. Desperate, she knelt on the red carpet, clutching the leg of my suit trousers and weeping as she begged me to sign her, holding a glass of champagne. I sneered and threw that indentured servitude contract, with its $1 base salary, right into her face. Welcome to Windfall, Lord. An exciting story is about to begin. In the late autumn of Manhattan's Upper East Side, the air is always thick with the scent of expensive perfume mixed with old money. And I, Silas Vance, a 22-year-old basement painter, stood awkwardly in the center of the nation's most elite Thorne private museum, wearing a $50 rented tuxedo with slightly frayed cuffs. At this very moment, my eyes were fixed intently on the massive oil painting hanging on the central wall of the hall. Below the artwork sat a striking gold embossed label. Artist, Genevieve Sinclair. Sale price, $1,000,000. The moment I saw that string of numbers, I felt the blood rush straight to my head. Just last Tuesday, in that Brooklyn basement where the sun never shines and the air reeks of mildew and cheap turpentine, I had pulled 3 consecutive all-nighters, meticulously completing this painting titled The Muse's Tears. Yet the name on the label, Genevieve Sinclair, the aloof campus belle of the Royal Academy of Fine Arts who had countless wealthy heirs falling at her feet, was currently standing under the spotlight. Dressed in a pure white haute couture silk evening gown, she looked like a proud white swan, holding a glass of champagne as she elegantly accepted the praise of New York's art world elite. I took a deep breath, clenched my fists, and strode through the crowd, walking directly up to her. Genevieve, I said in a low voice, attempting to maintain a final shred of dignity. We need to talk. She turned her head, and those blue eyes, as cold as Siberian permafrost, flashed with a trace of imperceptible panic when they met mine, though it was quickly replaced by disgust. Silas? How did you sneak in here? She frowned slightly, sizing up my cheap suit with a look one might give a sewer rat. This is a dinner for top-tier artists, not a place for someone like you. That's my painting. I gritted my teeth, pointing at the canvas on the wall. You clearly said it was just for your final project exhibition and promised me a $5,000 ghostwriting fee. Now you've sold it for $1 million. Not only did you pocket all the money, but you signed your own name to it. My voice wasn't loud, but in the quiet gallery, it still drew the attention of several nearby socialites. Genevieve sneered, her stunning face twisted in mockery. Instead of lowering her voice, she deliberately raised it, drawing the attention of everyone in the room. Silas, have you inhaled too many fumes from cheap paint in that wretched basement of yours? Has it rotted your brain? She glanced around, speaking loudly with a tone of utter contempt. Everyone, let me introduce you. This is a low-level artisan I once hired. I gave him a concept and had him help me with a rough draft. That's all. And now, he actually has the delusion that he is the one who gave this painting its soul. A burst of harsh, mocking laughter erupted from the crowd. Tristan Thorne, the owner of the top-tier gallery, a man who always wore bespoke suits and possessed eyes like a vulture, approached with a wine glass in hand. He looked me up and down, making no effort to hide the disdain in his gaze. Kid, the core of art is the concept, the idea. A mere craftsman like you, who can only copy what he sees, will spend the rest of his life drawing $10 sketches for people on the street. Tristan waved his hand coldly. Security, throw this pathetic piece of trash out. Don't let him stain my Persian rug. 2 burly security guards in black suits immediately rushed forward, pinning my arms firmly from both sides. Genevieve, you liar! I struggled violently, staring fixedly at her hypocritical face. Genevieve walked up to me in her expensive high heels, pulled a check out of her diamond-encrusted clutch, and tore it to shreds in front of everyone. Then, she slammed the scraps of paper hard against my face. I was originally going to show some mercy and grant you $500. She looked down at me as if I were a trivial insect. But now, you won't get a single cent. Take your lowly craft and crawl back to your slums. Someone like you isn't even fit to touch my brushes. I was brutally dragged out of the gallery by security and slammed onto the asphalt road outside like a bag of trash. The cold autumn rain poured down without warning, instantly soaking through my cheap tuxedo. I lay face down in a muddy puddle, my palms bleeding from the rough pavement. I looked up through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows at the banquet hall inside, warm as spring, watching Genevieve laughing radiantly while surrounded by the wealthy elite. Extreme humiliation, rage, and despair gnawed at my heart like venomous snakes. In this American art circle where capital controls everything, without money or a background, my talent is nothing more than dog shit to be trampled upon at will. At the very moment I clenched my bleeding fists and let out a silent roar toward the freezing night sky. A cold, mechanical electronic voice suddenly rang out in the depths of my mind without warning. Ding! Intense betrayal and extreme longing detected from the host. The Goddess investment system is officially bound. System activation successful. This system aims to help the host establish absolute capital hegemony on the soil of America. The rules are as follows. The host can use the system's built-in God's Eye to skin female targets with high potential. By investing in eligible women, the host will receive tenfold, or even hundredfold cash rebates and unlock top-tier god-level skills. Ding! The newbie gift pack has been distributed. Congratulations to the host for obtaining initial investment funds. $1 million. The funds have been deposited into your Citibank Black Card via an absolutely secure offshore account. Congratulations, host, on acquiring the passive skill, God's Eye. You can now see through any woman's artistic potential, commercial value, and favorability toward you. I froze, momentarily forgetting the rainwater soaking my body and the stinging pain of my wounds. With trembling hands, I pulled my second-hand iPhone with its shattered screen from my drenched pocket. The screen lit up, and a text notification from Citibank leaped into view. A deposit of $1 million has just been made into your account ending in 8888. Current balance, $1 million. This wasn't an illusion. This was cold, hard cash. I stared intently at the long string of zeros on the screen, my heart racing so fast it felt like it would burst through my chest. $1 million, just a minute ago. This was an astronomical figure Genevieve used to humiliate me. A sum that felt utterly out of reach. And now, it was merely my starting chips in this game. I slowly stood up from the muddy water, letting the rain wash the filth from my face. I turned my head to glance once more at that brilliantly lit private art gallery, my lips curling into a chilling, almost manic arc. Genevieve. Tristan, you think having capital means you can do whatever you want, don't you? You think that by stripping away my life's work, you can stand on my head and play God? The show is just beginning. I will use the very money and capital you worship to smash your proud art empire to pieces. Just you wait. The Manhattan autumn rain fell all night. Yet I lay on a bed in a cheap motel, so exhilarated I didn't close my eyes for a second, staring at the $1 million balance in my mobile banking app. I felt like a man who had just robbed a mint, but I also knew that in a place like America, where capital devours people, $1 million could at most buy a spacious luxury restroom in the Upper East Side. To truly crush bastards like Tristan and Genevieve, who fancy themselves gods, this amount was nowhere near enough. Early the next morning, I changed into a clean black jacket and headed straight to the edge of New York's Chelsea Art District. This is the heart of the New York art world, but its fringes are crowded with bottom-tier artists who, much like I used to be, harbor big dreams while bordering on starvation. The air at the street corner was a mix of leftover pizza and the pungent scent of turpentine. Right at the mouth of an alley cluttered with trash cans, I heard a sharp, heated argument. Listen, Iris. I don't know what the hell this abstract crap that looks like roadkill organs is supposed to be. I just know you owe me 3 full months of rent. If you don't come up with $3,000 today, I'm throwing you and all this junk out onto the street. A balding landlord, as bloated as a burger stuffed with cheap cheese, was pointing his finger right at a girl's nose and screaming at the top of his lungs. That girl was Iris Montgomery. She was wearing a pair of oversized overalls stained with colorful paint. Her hair was a mess, and her soulful gray-green eyes were currently filled with stubbornness and despair. She was clutching an oil painting to her chest as if it were her very life. Please, Mr. David, just give me 1 more week. My work is just too ahead of its time. Mainstream galleries don't accept it yet. But if only, to hell with ahead of its time. Your paintings can't even buy a single pizza. The stout landlord reached out violently to snatch the painting from her arms, intending to smash it then and there. At that exact moment, the air before my eyes rippled with faint blue data. The system's God's Eye had automatically activated. Lines of golden text, visible only to me, hovered above Iris's head. Target, Iris Montgomery. Artistic potential, SSS rank, extreme emotional explosiveness, sufficient to subvert contemporary art history. Current commercial value, 0. Favorability toward host, 0%. Projected return on investment, over 10,000%. My heart skipped a beat. SSS rank potential, Genevieve, that trophy artist who only knows how to cater to the aesthetics of the wealthy, has a potential that is a C rank at best. This girl before me, looking like a stray cat, is nothing less than an unmined super gold mine. I strode forward and grabbed the fat landlord's greasy wrist. With a slight application of pressure, he let out a scream like a slaughtered pig. Hey, buddy, take it easy. Getting rough with the future master of the arts is a sure way to invite divine retribution. I looked at him coldly and shoved him aside. The fat landlord rubbed his wrist and glared at me viciously. Who the hell do you think you are? Trying to play the hero? She owes me $3,000. Are you going to pay for her? You deadbeat? Without a word, I pulled out the black card and flashed it in front of his eyes. Then, I took out my phone, asked for his account details, and transferred the money on the spot. With a ding, the fat landlord's phone chimed. He glanced at the screen, and his eyes nearly popped out of his head. Here is $10,000, I said, looking down at him. $3,000 is for the rent she owes you. The remaining $7,000 is a fee for you to shut your mouth right now and get the hell out of my sight. Do I make myself clear? In this country, a francolin is the ultimate passport. The portly landlord's expression shifted instantly into a sycophantic grin. He nodded repeatedly and scurried into the depths of the alley like a well-fed marmot. Iris stood frozen, clutching her painting. She watched me with the wariness of a startled fawn. Who are you? Why are you helping me? I don't have any money to pay you back. I turned to look at the painting in her arms. It was an abstract landscape built from wildly aggressive colors, brimming with an explosive energy born from extreme suppression. One look was enough to pull a person's soul right into it. This was true art. My name is Silas Vance. Not only do I not want your money back, I want to invest in you. I looked her straight in the eye, my tone brooking no argument. From now on, I'm buying everything you paint. I'm prepared to drop $1 million to throw you a solo exhibition that will take all of New York by storm. There is only one condition. Sign this management contract. From this moment forward, I represent your artistic soul. Iris's eyes widened as if she had just heard the most absurd joke in the world. $1 million? Are you out of your mind? Or are you just some kind of creep with a weird fetish? She instinctively took a step back. I shrugged helplessly, firing back with a touch of classic American humor. Look, Iris, if I were a creep, I'd be popping champagne on a private yacht in Miami right now, not watching you blow your nose in an alleyway that smells like a urinal. I'm investing in you because your talent is enough to grind those pretentious gallery owners into the dirt. Sign this, and you're the new star of Chelsea. Refuse me, and tomorrow you'll be flipping burgers at McDonald's. I don't know if it was my words that moved her or the cold, hard reality of $10,000 that stunned her. Iris bit her lip and, with paint-stained fingers, tremblingly pressed her thumbprint onto the electronic contract I had drafted on my phone. The moment the contract took effect, the system's notification rang in my mind like celestial music. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the first God-level investment. Target Iris Montgomery has been bound. Detected that the host boldly utilized the entire principal, triggering a tenfold critical hit cashback reward. $10 million has been safely deposited into the host's account. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a top-tier passive skill. Absolute artistic intuition. You can now accurately assess the true market value and historical status of any artwork. I felt my phone vibrate in my pocket once again, and a surge of pure exhilaration shot up my spine to the top of my head. $10 million. From a bottom-tier painter being trampled in the mud to a newly minted capitalist worth tens of millions. It had taken me less than 12 hours. Mr. Silas? Iris looked at me somewhat timidly. What should we do now? Should we go buy some paint? No. I turned my head toward the main street at the very heart of the bustling Chelsea Arts District. Situated at the center of that street was the largest branch under Tristan Thorne's name. Bring all your paintings. Iris. I let out a cold sneer and straightened the collar of my black jacket. Let's go by a gallery for fun. In the heart of the Chelsea Arts District, the glass curtain wall of the Thorne Gallery reflected a cold, arrogant glint under the sunlight. This was Tristan Thorne's cash cow, a sanctuary that countless aspiring artists dreamed of entering. But today, I was going to turn it into my playground. I led Iris as we pushed open the heavy glass doors. A blast of air conditioning, mingled with the scent of expensive woody incense, hit us. The gallery manager, a middle-aged man in an Armani suit with slicked back hair, was standing at the front desk, eyeing us with an extremely critical gaze. When he saw Iris's tattered overalls stained with paint, his disgust was palpable. Hey, this isn't a homeless shelter. The manager tapped on the desk and pointed toward the door without ceremony. Are you in the wrong place? The Metropolitan Museum of Art is a few blocks away, and today is their free admission day. I smirked. This stench of elitist arrogance was exactly the same as Tristan's. Ignoring him, I walked straight to the most prominent spot in the gallery. Hanging there was an utterly mediocre landscape painting. Yet it was priced at a staggering $200,000. Under the system's absolute artistic scent, the painting emitted a decaying, lifeless gray glow. System valuation, at most, $2,000, to be used as a lid for cup noodles. Where is your boss? Tristan? I turned my head and looked at the manager, who was stomping over in a rage. Mr. Thorne is in a meeting upstairs. He doesn't have time to see people like. Before the manager could finish his sentence, I pulled the black card from my pocket and slapped it onto the marble front desk. I want to buy this place, I said calmly. My voice wasn't loud, yet it resonated through the cavernous gallery. The manager froze, then erupted into a fit of exaggerated laughter. Buy this place? Kid, do you have any idea what you're saying? This gallery is valued at over $5 million. You think you can come in here and play the big shot with some black card you picked up at a flea market? Just then, the sound of leather shoes echoed from the oak staircase on the second floor. Tristan Thorne walked down, adjusting his tie. When his eyes landed on my face, his footsteps came to a jarring halt, and his expression instantly darkened. I was wondering who it was. Turns out it's just the bug I tossed out last night. Tristan stepped up to me, his gaze cold enough to kill. Silas, do you really have a death wish for a jail cell? I can't believe you have the nerve to come here and cause trouble at my main gallery. Tristan, I'm here to talk business. I looked him straight in the eye, refusing to back down. Business? Tristan reacted as if he'd just heard the joke of the century. A pathetic loser who can't even get paid for his ghostwriting is going to talk business with me? I didn't waste words on him. I took out my phone, dialed the private customer service line exclusive to Citibank's VIP clients, and switched it to speakerphone. Hello, Mr. Vance? How may I be of service to you today? Came the extremely respectful voice of the customer service representative on the other end of the line. Check my account balance, and then immediately transfer $8 million to the corporate account under this Mr. Tristan's name, I said flatly. Certainly, Mr. Vance. Your current account balance is $11 million. The transfer request for $8 million has been processed and is expected to reach the designated account within 10 seconds. The entire gallery fell into a sudden, deathly silence. Tristan's sneer froze on his face, and the Armani manager's mouth hung open in terror, his jaw nearly hitting the floor. 10 seconds later, the phone in Tristan's pocket let out a sharp vibration. He scrambled to pull it out, staring intently at the credit notification on the screen. $8 million. Not a penny less. His face turned from white to red, then from red to purple, looking like an overturned pallet. Where on earth did you get this much money? Tristan's voice was trembling. That's none of your business. $8 million, a 60% premium to acquire this gallery of yours. Now, have your lawyer draft the contract immediately. I stepped forward and patted his shoulder. Oh, by the way, as of today, you're fired. Take those soulless pieces of junk you call paintings and get out. This capitalist, who once trampled me into the muddy water and humiliated me at will, now looks like a spineless mangy dog before me. Although he is utterly unwilling, he has no room for resistance in the face of an absolute cash flow of $8 million. Half an hour later, the acquisition procedures were fully completed. Tristan and that snobbish manager clutched their personal belongings and slunk out of the gallery doors in disgrace. I stood in the center of the gallery, turning to look at Iris, who had been in a state of petrification this entire time. So, Iris, do you think this stage is big enough? I asked with a smile. Iris swallowed hard, looking at the luxurious decor around her before turning her gaze back to me. Silas, what kind of monster are you? Did you really spend $8 million to buy the Thorn Gallery? No, it's not the Thorn Gallery anymore. I snapped my fingers. From today on, it's called The Muse's Fury. And you will be the only protagonist here. Over the next week, I used the remaining $2 million to whip up a hurricane in the Chelsea Arts District. Utilizing the system's absolute artistic intuition, I cleared out all the worthless trash paintings originally in the gallery and replaced them with Iris's explosive works. Simultaneously, I poured heavy funds into buying up all the prominent advertising spots in Times Square and major art-centric subway stations, launching a carpet-bombing promotional campaign. The slogan consisted of only one incredibly arrogant sentence. True art is awakening. Prepare to bury the trash of the old era. Iris Montgomery's debut solo exhibition, opening with a shock. This frantic marketing campaign immediately caused an uproar throughout the New York art world. Everyone wanted to know which man was using such a near nouveau riche approach to push an unknown newcomer into the spotlight. On the day the exhibition opened, the Chelsea Art District was completely gridlocked. Countless art critics, top-tier collectors, and even Wall Street tycoons swarmed into the gallery like sharks scenting blood. When they stood before Iris's paintings, everyone was deeply shaken by a power that struck directly at the soul. Those wild colors and jagged lines were like a sledgehammer, violently shattering the long stagnant, hypocritical mask of the contemporary art world. A genius! This is a once-in-a-century genius! One of America's most authoritative art critics exclaimed, trembling with excitement as he stood before a canvas. This extreme expression of emotion makes those self-indulgent academics look like an absolute joke. In less than 2 hours, all 30 paintings exhibited in the gallery were snapped up. The total transaction volume surpassed $15 million. Iris's commercial value instantly skyrocketed from zero to an awe-inspiring height. Meanwhile, in my mind, the system's notification tones began to ring frantically once again. Ding! Congratulations to the host for successfully detonating the first artistic nuclear bomb. Investment target Iris Montgomery's commercial value has reached S rank. Favorability has soared to 100%. Absolute loyalty locked. System reward settlement in progress. Congratulations to the host for obtaining a cash reward of $50 million. Gallery matrix expansion permissions unlocked. Listening to the voice in my head, I looked at Iris, who was surrounded by a forest of media cameras and microphones, weeping with excitement. However, there wasn't much of a ripple in my heart. With $50 million plus the proceeds from the art exhibition, I already possessed nearly $70 million in cash flow. I walked to the gallery's floor-to-ceiling window and looked at a massive billboard on the opposite street corner. It featured Genevieve's cold, arrogant face, a promotional poster for her upcoming debut solo exhibition. Genevieve, are you ready for a real capital storm? I raised a glass of champagne, offering a distant toast to the poster, my eyes as cold as ice. Your good days are over. $70 million in cash flow might seem like an astronomical sum that one could never spend in a lifetime to many. But to me, It was merely the starting chips for this game of revenge. I didn't just want to destroy Genevieve. I wanted to trample the entire self-righteous New York art scene under my feet and reshape it. Over the next 2 weeks, I acted like a tireless capital machine, utilizing the system's gallery matrix expansion permissions. I went on a frantic buying spree across the United States. New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, any private gallery that had once closed its doors to Iris or had colluded with Tristan. I brought them to their knees with direct cash offers far exceeding market value. 30. A total of 30 top-tier private art galleries located in core art districts across the United States changed hands in just 15 days. All rebranded under the name Muse's Wrath. I have built an incredibly vast art distribution network. With a single word from me, any artist's work can be spread across the entire country instantly. Or vanish without a trace. While I was expanding at a breakneck pace, Genevieve was also busy preparing for her first solo exhibition. Leveraging the million-dollar fame brought by the stolen painting Tears of the Muse and the prestige of the Royal Academy of Arts, she successfully secured a deal with Manhattan's most established gallery, Gagosian. Her publicity was everywhere, branding her as the perfect incarnation of New Age classicism, while major media outlets touted her as a once-in-a-century artistic prodigy. Boss, Genevieve's solo exhibition is set for next Wednesday evening. Gagosian is going all out to promote her, and I heard many Wall Street moguls will be attending, Iris reported, standing before my massive mahogany desk in a well-tailored black suit. She had transformed from a starving street painter into the chief art director of Muse's Wrath. In her gray-green eyes, there was now only absolute obedience and fanatical admiration for me. I sat in my leather swivel chair, toyed with a solid gold Montblanc pen in my hand, and let out a cold sneer. Gagosian? That's a tough nut to crack. I heard their owner is an extremely stubborn, old-school aristocrat who doesn't really buy into the whole capital game. I narrowed my eyes, my fingers tapping lightly on the desk. Yes, we attempted a takeover of Gagosian before, but they rejected us in no uncertain terms. Iris frowned. If Genevieve's exhibition is successfully held there, her market value will likely skyrocket again. For our next plan. This. Don't worry, Iris, I interrupted her, a hint of mockery flashing in my eyes. Art is something that requires contrast. Without the backdrop of trash, how can the brilliance of a pearl truly shine? I stood up and walked to the massive holographic projection screen, which displayed a real-time data network of art transactions across the United States. Initiate project. Nightfall, I commanded coldly. Mobilize all resources from the 30 galleries under our name to host a nationwide joint exhibition next Wednesday night, at the exact same time as Genevieve's exhibition opening. The theme will be The True Muse. I understand. Boss. Iris's eyes lit up. You want to crush her with absolute power? More than just crush her. I want to drain every drop of her exposure. I turned to look at Iris. Contact all the top art critics and collectors in the country. Tell them that if they attend the Muse's Wrath joint exhibition on Wednesday night, I will grant them a free viewing of your latest Soul series. Iris's Soul series is the pinnacle of her work, created after I signed her, free from any financial pressure or outside interference. The system's God's eye valuation is priceless. Once a work of this caliber is unveiled, it is enough to leave a profound mark on art history. Those haughty critics and collectors will find it absolutely impossible to resist such a temptation. But Gagosian has already sent out many invitations. Will they really break their appointments at the last minute? Iris asked with some concern. Of course they will. Because this is a dual game of capital and human nature. I took out my phone and dialed the numbers of several moguls who called the shots on Wall Street. Just a few days ago, these men had purchased several classical oil paintings with high appreciation potential from me at extremely low prices. They owed me a massive favor. Hello, Mr. Smith. Do you have an opening in your schedule for Wednesday night? I'm hosting a private viewing that you'll definitely be interested in. Yes, clear your other arrangements. I guarantee you won't regret it. I hung up the phone, the sneer at the corner of my mouth becoming more pronounced. In addition to the lure of profit, I had also exchanged a hacking program called public opinion manipulation from the system. 3 days before the exhibition's opening, negative rumors about Genevieve suddenly began circulating online. Some questioned the authenticity of her painting Tears of the Muse. Others pointed out that the style of her recent new works differed drastically from her previous ones. And some classmates from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts even anonymously leaked stories about her chaotic private life. Although these rumors lacked concrete evidence, in an art circle that values reputation so highly, even the slightest blemish is enough to make people hesitate. Wednesday night, 7:50 p.m. The Upper East Side of Manhattan was desolate in front of the Gagosian Gallery. Aside from a few obscure tabloid reporters and a handful of wealthy heirs who had only come for Genevieve's beauty, the top-tier collectors and authoritative critics who had promised to attend were nowhere to be found. Inside the gallery, Genevieve wore an exquisitely luxurious red evening gown, her sophisticated makeup unable to hide her underlying anxiety and panic. She paced restlessly, constantly checking the Patek Philippe watch on her wrist. What's going on? Why hasn't Mr. Smith arrived yet? And the chief art critic from the New York Times. They clearly promised they would be here. Genevieve shouted at the gallery manager, having long since abandoned her usual poise as the aloof campus belle. The manager was also breaking out in a cold sweat, his fingers flying as he dialed number after number. But the responses were all a uniform. Apologies, a more important engagement has come up at the last minute. Miss Sinclair, something has happened. The manager finally put down his phone, his face as pale as a sheet. They've all gone to Chelsea. There's a nationwide joint exhibition happening there. And all the media and resources have been sucked away. A joint exhibition? Hosted by whom? How could they possibly draw everyone away? Genevieve shrieked in disbelief. The manager swallowed hard, his voice trembling as he uttered the name that made her feel as though she had fallen into an ice cellar. It's Muse's Wrath. Their behind-the-scenes boss, that mysterious capital tycoon who swept through 30 private art galleries across the country in just half a month, has leaked word that works capable of overturning art history will be on display tonight. Genevieve froze, an unprecedented sense of dread instantly seizing her heart. Meanwhile, in the main gallery of Muse's Fury in the Chelsea Art District, the lights were brilliant, and the room was buzzing with voices. America's top elites and artists were gathered before Iris's Soul series, letting out waves of admiration. Holding a glass of champagne, I stood in the VIP room on the second floor, watching Genevieve's pale face at the Gagosian gallery through the surveillance screen. A surge of ultimate vengeful pleasure welled up in my heart. This is just the beginning of stripping away your halo, Genevieve. Soon, I will peel away even your hypocritical soul. Gagosian Gallery's unprecedentedly dismal debut exhibition became the absolute laughingstock of the New York art world. Not a single one of Genevieve's paintings, which she had touted as a neoclassical revival, was sold. Rumors of her employing ghostwriters intensified online, and the Royal Academy of Arts even began considering the suspension of her graduation eligibility. The once lofty art fairy had now become a pariah that everyone avoided like the plague. Meanwhile, I was sitting in my new office in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, leisurely sipping a glass of 82 Lafite. Outside the massive floor-to-ceiling windows lay the glittering night view of all of Hollywood. Following the successful operation of those 30 galleries, my personal assets had exploded exponentially. The cash flow in my accounts had surpassed $1 billion, officially placing me among the ranks of the top-tier capital giants in the United States. Boss, these are the top-secret documents sent over from Gagosian Gallery. Iris pushed open the door and placed a thick manila envelope on my desk. She had now completely transformed into a decisive business powerhouse, her gray-green eyes reflecting absolute shrewdness and competence. I set down my wine glass and pulled out the documents for a quick glance. Just as I expected, that old-school aristocrat Gagosian finally reached his breaking point. Genevieve's disastrous exhibition hadn't just cost him a fortune. More importantly, I had utilized my gallery matrix to impose a comprehensive commercial blockade on him. I had poached more than half of his top-tier clients, and the remaining ones had severed ties with him, one after another, fearing they might offend Muse's wrath. They've agreed to the acquisition? I leaned back in my chair, a cold smirk playing on my lips. Yes. However, Mr. Gagosian has proposed an additional condition. Iris flipped to a specific page. He requests that we take over Genevieve Sinclair's management contract as well. He says it's a legacy dead contract, signed previously, with a termination fee as high as $5 million, which he is currently unable to pay. I couldn't help but burst into laughter. A $5 million termination fee? To me now, that was a mere pittance. But this condition was essentially pinning Genevieve's arrogant head directly onto my chopping block. Agree to his terms. Not only should you take over, but double the liquidated damages and buy out her exclusive representation rights for life. A cruel glint flashed in my eyes. Go get it done, Iris. And while you're at it, send a grand gift to our dear campus Belle. Meanwhile, in a cramped luxury apartment in Manhattan, New York, Genevieve sat disheveled amidst a floor littered with empty wine bottles. That face, which had once captivated the masses, was now gaunt and filled with terror. Her phone was blowing up with calls from major banks and debt collection agencies. For that failed art exhibition, she had not only blown through the $1 million she gained from selling the Muse's Tears, but had also maxed out her credit cards and racked up massive debts. What drove her even deeper into despair was that her proud painting skills appeared hollow and clumsy without me, her low-level ghostwriter. She had tried to create new works on her own to salvage her reputation, but the results were so poor that even third-rate galleries turned their noses up at them. Ding-dong. The doorbell rang. Genevieve jolted, shrinking into the corner of the sofa like a startled bird. Thinking it was another debt collector, she pressed her hands tightly over her ears, not daring to make a sound, but the ringing persisted, grating on her nerves like a relentless death knell. Finally, gritting her teeth, she grabbed a wine bottle from the table and crept toward the door, peering cautiously through the peephole. Standing outside were two men in sharp suits, holding a gold-embossed folder. Genevieve hesitated for a moment before opening the door. Who are you? I don't have any money left. Go away. she shouted, raising her wine bottle with a bravado that failed to mask her fear. Miss Sinclair, please remain calm. We are not here to collect a debt. One of the men bowed slightly, his tone cold and businesslike. We are legal representatives from the Muse's Wrath group. This is the confirmation of the transfer of your representation contract from the Gagosian Gallery. Genevieve froze. What? Gagosian transferred my contract? No, that's impossible. He clearly said he would help me organize a touring exhibition. Gagosian Gallery was officially acquired as a wholly owned subsidiary of Muse's Wrath yesterday. As part of the assets, your contract now belongs to our group. The man pushed the folder toward her. This is a notification, not a negotiation. According to the terms of the contract, you are now an exclusive signed artist of Muse's Wrath. Genevieve's hands trembled as she took the folder and flipped to the first page. When she saw the $10 million liquidated damages clause, she felt as if she had been struck by lightning. $10 million in damages? Is Gagosian insane? How could I possibly afford that? She shrieked. That is not the most important matter. Miss Sinclair? Another legal representative interrupted her expressionlessly. Our boss has a specific directive to convey to you. What instructions? A sense of foreboding rose in the depths of Genevieve's heart. As a signed artist of Muse's Wrath, you must comply with all of the group's arrangements. Starting tomorrow, you must move out of this apartment and into the residence designated by the group. Additionally, you are required to prepare a brand new piece for next month's Whitney Biennial. The Whitney Biennial? Genevieve's eyes lit up instantly. That was the highest level contemporary art exhibition in the country. If not the world, if she could exhibit there, she still had a chance to turn things around. Your boss. Who is your boss? Why is he helping me? She asked urgently, as if clutching at a lifeline. The legal representatives exchanged a glance, and one of them pulled a tablet from his pocket, tapped on a video, and handed it to Genevieve. Our boss said this video will answer all of your questions. Genevieve took the tablet with a look of confusion and pressed play. The video showed an incredibly luxurious office. The camera slowly zoomed in, eventually coming to a rest on a man sitting in a leather swivel chair with his back to the camera. The man turned around slowly, holding a glass of red wine, and flashed a spine-chilling smile at the camera. Long time no see, Genevieve. Genevieve's pupils dilated instantly, and the tablet in her hand fell to the floor with a sharp crack, shattering into pieces. Silas? She gasped in disbelief, her face turning as pale as a sheet. No, that's impossible. How could you be the owner of Muse's Wrath? You're supposed to be nothing but trash living in a basement. An extreme panic submerged her completely like an icy tide. She finally understood why Gagosian had suddenly collapsed and why her exhibition had suffered such a devastating blow. As it turned out, the mastermind behind everything was the low-level ghostwriter she had once trampled upon and publicly humiliated. And now, the future she took such pride in, and all of her hopes were gripped firmly in this man's hands. She had become a lamb to the slaughter on my chopping block. Watching the miserable sight of Genevieve collapsing to the floor on the surveillance footage, I exhaled a leisurely puff of smoke from my Cuban cigar. This cat-and-mouse game had finally entered its most adrenaline-pumping phase. The total crush. Ding! Detected that target. Genevieve's psychological defenses have completely collapsed. System permissions unlocked on a large scale, activating all-American radar scan mode. The host can now ignore distance to precisely locate all female artists across the United States with S-rank potential, or higher. Over the next month, I transformed completely into a tireless capital harvester. Aboard my newly purchased Gulfstream private jet, I took Iris on a frantic shopping spree across major American cities. From Art Basel, Miami to the street graffiti districts of Chicago and independent sculpture exhibitions in Seattle. Whenever the eye of God scanned a top-tier prospect, I hit them with so much cash they began to question the meaning of life. In Miami, there was Chloe, a punk girl welding sculptures from scrap metal in an abandoned auto repair shop. I tossed her $2 million on the spot to buy up all her junk. In Chicago, there was Zoe, a genius girl expelled from the academy because her style was too dark. I handed her the keys to a villa equipped with a world-class studio, plus a $5 million creative fund. With every contract signed, that wonderful electronic chime echoed in my mind. Ding! Investment successful. Triggered a 50x critical hit. Cashback of $100 million. Ding! Target loyalty maxed out. Unlocking God-tier skill. Absolute artistic dominance. In just 30 short days, the balance on my Citibank Black Card has ballooned to an outrageous $5 billion. I purchased a 30,000 square foot mega mansion in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, becoming a hidden titan that even Wall Street regards with awe. Out of the top 50 young female artists in the United States, 38 are now signed under the banner of Muse's Fury. My gallery matrix has completely monopolized the entire North American modern art market. Now, if I say a painting is a masterpiece for the ages, even if it's just a used tissue, those Upper East Side billionaires will scramble to pay $10 million to bring it home. As for our once aloof campus Belle, Genevieve, boss, as per your instructions, Genevieve has been forced to move into a basement studio in Queens. Iris handed me a top-secret report, a cold smile playing on her lips. It's a place that never sees the light of day, crawling with rats and reeking of mold and cheap turpentine, exactly like the place you used to live. The legal department sends people to watch her every day, forcing her to paint for next week's New York biennial. How is her painting coming along? I asked nonchalantly, twisting the sapphire ring on my ring finger. A total disaster. Iris made no effort to hide the disdain in her eyes. Without your ghostwriting, she's like a giant infant who just learned how to hold a brush. Surveillance shows she's been alternating between sobbing and smashing things for the past few days. She's already shredded over 100 canvases and is on the verge of a mental breakdown. The legal department warned her that if she fails to deliver for the Biennale, the $10 million penalty will be enforced immediately, and she'll spend the rest of her life in federal prison. Excellent. Pick out the best piece she's painted over the last 2 weeks and send it to the New York Biennale Organizing Committee, untrimmed and exactly as it is. I stood up, looking down at the glittering stream of traffic in Los Angeles below. And tell the committee that Muse's Wrath will be taking over the central exhibition area of the Biennale this year. Chloe, Zoe, and you, Iris, put your finest works on display. Boss, you're planning to. Iris caught on instantly, her eyes gleaming with excitement. Exactly. I let out a cold sneer, my eyes reflecting a sense of absolute control. I want her to stand on the most prestigious stage in America and watch her pathetic little talent be crushed by a true genius. I want to personally tear off that hypocritical mask of hers in front of every socialite and tycoon. Go get ready, ladies. A sensational public execution is about to begin, near Grand Central Terminal in Manhattan. The Whitney Biennial, the highest specification contemporary art exhibition in the U.S., kicked off. Luxury cars swarmed outside the venue, and helicopters from major media outlets circled overhead. This biennial is known as the Super Bowl of the art world. Those who can secure a core booth here are, without exception, world-renowned masters, and this year, the entire main exhibition area had been lavishly bought out by Muse's Wrath. Dressed in a black suit handcrafted by top tailors from London's Savile Row, I stepped onto the red carpet like a monarch, flanked by a retinue of bodyguards and gallery executives. Flashbulbs strobed frantically. Those art critics and gallery owners who had once looked down their noses at me were now desperately pushing through the crowd, just to catch my eye with a sycophantic smile. And at the end of the red carpet stood Genevieve, her face pale and her body swaying as if she might collapse at any moment. For today's exhibition, she had forced herself to rally, changing into an expensive Chanel evening gown. But the dress hung loosely on her visibly emaciated frame, and even the heavy foundation could not mask the dark circles under her eyes or the profound terror lurking within them. Come, let us go and admire Miss Sinclair's peerless masterpiece. Ignoring the flattery surrounding me, I walked straight toward the center of the main exhibition hall. As the eyes of the entire audience focused on Genevieve's work, the air instantly froze. It was an oil painting of utter chaos, with muddy colors and a composition devoid of any logic. There was no theme, only hysterical smears, like the frantic scribbles of a deranged child on a wall. An irrepressible wave of gasps and whispers erupted from the crowd. Good heavens, what on earth is this? This is what that genius from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts painted? This is an insult to the Biennale. Even my 3-year-old grandson could paint better than this with his toes. I heard her previous painting that sold for $1 million was ghost-written. Looks like the rumors were true. Every mocking remark felt like a stinging slap across Genevieve's face. She stood beside the artwork, her entire body trembling, nails digging deep into her palms as tears welled in her eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I took the microphone from Iris, my voice low and heavy with authority, instantly silencing the entire gallery. As the CEO of Muse's Wrath, I must apologize to you all. When we signed Miss Sinclair, we clearly overestimated her abilities. I walked up to the painting and scanned it using the system's absolute artistic scent. Soulless, worthless, a pile of wasted pigment, I declared coldly. The commercial value of this painting is an absolute negative. No, that's not true. Genevieve finally broke down. She lunged toward me, clutching my suit sleeve tightly, and screamed through her tears. Silas, it's you! You did this! You forced me to live in that disgusting basement. I had no inspiration at all. You're doing this to get revenge on me. Revenge on you? I let out a cold sneer, looking down at her from my height. Genevieve, you think too highly of yourself. In the face of capital, you don't even have the qualifications to be worth my revenge. I am simply showing the world the true level of talent that belonged to you all along. With a wave of my hand, Iris immediately understood. The lights in the main gallery shifted abruptly, and dozens of massive projection screens surrounding us flickered to life simultaneously. There was Iris's Soul series, Chloe's heavy metal sculptures, Zoe's Dark Rhapsody. The peak works of the 38 genius female artists I had invested in swept through the entire exhibition hall like a tsunami. Wild colors, extreme emotional outbursts, and incredible compositions, every piece radiated a soul-shaking power. In the presence of these works of true genius, Genevieve's pathetic doodle was worth less than a pile of dog shit. This is true art, an elderly, white-haired top critic shouted, tears of excitement streaming down his face as he pointed at Iris's painting. This is a masterpiece for the history books. Muse's wrath is truly reshaping the history of American art. The entire exhibition hall erupted. All the camera flashes, all the praise, and all the gasps of wonder converged on those 38 genius girls. Meanwhile, Genevieve was reduced to a completely ignored backdrop, crushed to pieces by the overwhelming radiance of their spotlight. Ding! Detected that the target Genevieve's social status has completely collapsed and her reputation is utterly ruined. Host's revenge progress has reached 90%. The ultimate reward is about to be unlocked. I looked at Genevieve, who was slumped on the floor, covering her face in despair with both hands. I loosened my tie, walked up to her, and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "Remember the night you tore up that check and threw it in my face? I told you then that I would use the very capital you worship most to smash your proud artistic empire to smithereens. Now, do you think the show is worth watching?" Near Grand Central Terminal in Manhattan, the Whitney Biennial, the highest-profile contemporary art exhibition in the United States, kicked off. Luxury cars swarmed outside the venue, while helicopters from major media outlets circled overhead. This biennial is known as the Super Bowl of the art world. Those who secure a core booth here are, without exception, world-renowned masters, and this year, the entire main exhibition area was lavishly monopolized by Muse's wrath. Dressed in a black suit handcrafted by top tailors from London's Savile Row, I stepped onto the red carpet like a monarch, flanked by a phalanx of bodyguards and gallery executives. Flashbulbs strobed frantically. The very art critics and gallery owners who once looked down their noses at me were now desperately pushing through the crowd, just to catch my eye with a sycophantic smile. And at the end of the red carpet stood Genevieve, her face pale and her body swaying as if she might collapse at any moment. For today's exhibition, she had forced herself to rally, changing into an expensive Chanel evening gown, but the dress hung loosely on her visibly emaciated frame, and even the heavy foundation could not mask the dark circles under her eyes or the profound terror lurking within them. Come, let us go and admire Miss Sinclair's peerless masterpiece. Ignoring the flattery surrounding me, I walked straight toward the center of the main exhibition hall. As the eyes of the entire audience focused on Genevieve's work, the air instantly froze. It was an oil painting of utter chaos, with muddy colors and a composition devoid of any logic. There was no theme, only hysterical smears, like the frantic scribbles of a deranged child on a wall. An irrepressible wave of gasps and whispers erupted from the crowd. Good heavens, what on earth is this? This is what that genius from the Royal Academy of Fine Arts painted? This is an insult to the Biennale. Even my 3-year-old grandson could paint better than this with his toes. I heard her previous painting that sold for $1 million was ghostwritten. Looks like the rumors were true. Every mocking remark felt like a stinging slap across Genevieve's face. She stood beside the artwork, her entire body trembling, nails digging deep into her palms as tears welled in her eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, I took the microphone from Iris, my voice low and heavy with authority, instantly silencing the entire gallery. As the CEO of Muse's Wrath, I must apologize to you all. When we signed Miss Sinclair, we clearly overestimated her abilities. I walked up to the painting and scanned it using the system's absolute artistic scent. Soulless, worthless, a waste of pigment, I declared coldly. The commercial value of this painting is an absolute negative. No, that's not true. Genevieve finally broke down. She lunged toward me, clutching my suit sleeve with a death grip, and screamed through her tears, "Silas, it's you! You did this! You forced me to live in that disgusting basement. I had no inspiration at all. You're doing this to get revenge on me." Revenge? I let out a cold laugh, looking down at her from my height. Genevieve, you think too highly of yourself. In the face of capital, you don't even have the standing to warrant my revenge. I am simply showing the world the true level of talent you've had all along. With a wave of my hand, Iris understood immediately. The lights in the main exhibition hall shifted abruptly, and dozens of massive projection screens surrounding us lit up simultaneously. There was Iris's Soul series, Chloe's heavy metal sculptures, Zoe's Dark Rhapsody. The peak works of the 38 genius female artists I had invested in swept through the entire hall like a tsunami. Wild colors, extreme emotional outbursts, and incredible compositions, every piece radiated a soul-shaking power. In the face of these works of true genius, Genevieve's pathetic scribble was worth less than a pile of dog shit. This is true art, a white-haired top critic shouted, tears of excitement streaming down his face as he pointed at Iris's painting. This is a masterpiece for the history books. Muse's fury is truly reshaping the history of American art. The entire exhibition hall erupted. All the camera flashes, all the praise, and all the gasps of wonder converged on those 38 genius girls. Meanwhile, Genevieve was reduced to a completely ignored backdrop, crushed to pieces by the overwhelming radiance of their spotlight. Ding! Detected that the target Genevieve's social status has completely collapsed and her reputation is utterly ruined. Host's revenge progress has reached 90%. The ultimate reward is about to be unlocked. I looked at Genevieve, who was slumped on the floor, covering her face in despair with both hands. I loosened my tie, walked up to her, and said in a voice that only the two of us could hear, "Remember the night you tore up that check and threw it in my face? I told you then that I would use the very capital you worship most to smash your proud artistic empire to smithereens. Now, do you think the show is worth watching?" And that's a wrap. Folks, if this story gave you that sweet dopamine hit and was more satisfying than peeling the plastic off a brand new TV, do me a massive favor. Obliterate that like button and hit subscribe. I'm locked in the content mine, serving up fresh, ridiculously satisfying stories every single day. See you tomorrow for your next fix.